Thank you, Netflix. Thank you, Netflix. Thank you, Netflix, for saving one of my favorite shows, and now it is finally about to return. Folks, let's jump into Season 4, Part 1 of the series Manifest. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the channel today for another review. And today we're going to be reviewing Season 4, Part 1 of Manifest, making its debut, but yet its return because it was saved by Netflix November 4th. So in Part 1 of the two parts, just 10 episodes. So we got a lot to work with here. I'm going to assume that Part 2 will have 10 episodes as well too. There's been no release date set for Part 2. But I checked out all of Part 1 and this was everything I wanted it to be. Now, I could be wrong here, but the show absolutely feels like the same toning, pacing, and so on, but the production just feels so much better. And I think it has a lot to do with because we get to get it in 4K. You know, when you get it on Netflix, you're going to get the most clearest and best clarity in terms of any show that is available. So, you know, being able to stream this in 4K, I feel like maybe the slight difference here because obviously I was watching on basic television, which still doesn't have 1080p. So yeah, you know, watching it on Netflix. And yes, I get it that you can watch it. You could watch all the previous seasons and probably the same production, but I was already up to date as I was watching this weekly. As I said, one of my favorite shows. So, you know, could it be exactly the same? But then again, if you've been like myself, seeing the new season for the first time in 4K, it just feels so refreshing, and yet you're just so excited because one of your favorite shows was saved. And if you have not checked out this, I highly suggest to go check out the first 3 seasons, because coming into Season 4 you will be lost, because in Season 4 we're returning 2 years after Grace was murdered, and Grace was murdered, and Cal returned older, and we was like, oh, what a cliffhanger. I was so upset that that's where we was going to be left off on, and when Ben returns home, which we pick up in this season, you know, we see the events of him kind of still dealing with this trauma and the grieving of him reflecting back when he came home and realized that not only had Grace had been murdered, but now his daughter Eden is missing. And that has sent him on a 2-year hunt trying to find anything about her. And this has really put Ben in a bad place. Like, Ben has not been focused on 828ers or callings or anything. He's just worried about getting Eden. And it's been a rough road for him, to the point that he even kind of neglects Cal, who had been previously, you know, his main objective is to, where is my son? You know, so it's definitely a different dynamic for Ben, as this first half of this season truly focuses on the return and obviously the search and return of Eden. So yeah, I'll talk about the second half of the first half of this season in a second. But I just have to go back thinking about when this was announced, and this was announced back in August 28th of 2021, when Netflix had said, hey, we're gonna do the thing, because when this series had got picked up by Netflix, the previous seasons had been picked up by Netflix to be streamed, it had did monumental numbers, and so they had no choice but to greenlight this for the return for the 4th season. So if this is your first time ever checking this out, it's extremely popular. It did really good streaming numbers, and it's absolutely going to have you on the edge of your seat. And yeah, at times it feels like a lot of the same, because each episode is just like, well, what calling and what adventure, what journey, what tips, what clues do they have, and where they gonna go off to do so. But I ain't gonna be mad here. I'm happy to see Michaela back. I love me some Michaela, and her up to her same old shenanigans. But yeah, it's back. It's calling. The callings are back. The callings versus the anti-callings, the 828ers, and obviously the registry. You have all these things returning. We're right back into the groove of things. And as I said, every day is a new clue, a new lead. There's always something. It's always there, and it's adventures of Michaela most of the time. And the 828ers is basically the gift that keeps on giving. So there's that. But this is the fourth and final season. So, again, right now is the time to get into this. And ever since NBC canceled it, it was just an amazing thing to hear that it had been picked up. Hey, shout out to all the Save Manifest folks, man. We made it happen. Yeah, with that being said, Cal being older, now, it's a little bit different seeing older Cal, which we saw at the end of season 3, but we've always seen this young version of Cal who is basically the main focal point of all of the 3 previous seasons. So seeing him older now, going by alias because people still think he's missing, and this kind of works for him because one, he's an 828er and he's like of the most importance. So him being missing and him going by alias sort of gives him a little bit of normalcy once for his life. He hasn't had a call in 2 something years. So he's able to try to, have a normal life for once, and as I said, Ben is not in a good place and he hasn't been for a long time, losing his wife, and then pretty much giving up on his life. And then with Eden being missing and then, Angelina, and it's just a lot to really kind of put into here is that he's just an absent dad mentally with everything. He's just trying to figure it out, but it's just been a total struggle. And speaking of the Stones, Miss Olive definitely has a more set back role in this season. Like, she's definitely hands-on in terms of trying to figure out where Eden's at. But I will say one thing, the apple don't fall too far from the tree. The second half of the season is where we really start to see this character really get involved and more question marks start to appear. So I'm interested because, coming back from all of that Coke stuff to now this season is kind of like, where does she kind of fit in here? And the first half, you're kind of like, I'm not really sure. But the second half, you really start to raise a lot of questions about the possibility. And Michaela, man, it's the triangle of love with Jared and Zeke. This love triangle, man, it was tested last season, especially at the end of last episode. Jared dropping bombs on her and Zeke being, he's trying to show as much reserve about this as he can. Like, he's just kind of like, hey, we can just talk about it. But like, the love triangle aspect really is in full gear this season, and there are new and huge revelations, because now everyone has sort of different motivations, and things are very much different now, especially with Ben, and Zeke and his empathing abilities are being taken to the next level. Like, seeing what Zeke does and how Zeke really plays a part into everything, it's a game changer. And even at times Zeke and Ben helping one another. Like, Zeke has really been there from like a therapeutic side for Ben, which has been a huge support for him. But it's still very challenging. And there is a lot of scandalous things happening here. A lot. But this season I felt like took like the supernatural element to the next level. We start to really see things with the calling and the light really be showed in a way that makes this show feels like it's moving into another genre at times. And yeah, I get that there was a lot of that in the third season, but I don't know, for this season I feel like it's just because the more and more of the revelations and the discoveries of things that kind of happening and events that are occurring as we sort of try to figure out what happened to Flight 828 and what's going on with the light and all the sources and the callings and the source of the callings, it feels like they're just moving into a different direction here. Almost feels sort of like angelic at times. But yeah, when you get to the second half of the season, episode 6 through 9, it definitely becomes like a whole new story arc. And now it focuses back on Cal. Yeah, it's like more Cal again. And then, I'm not going to say much about that, but I just got to say that, like, it definitely takes us back to season 1, if you ask me. Like, the feelings, the emotional investment, just everything going back into Cal, because, that's been our main focus. We always wanted the best for Cal and for everything that Cal has been through, even to this point. And as I mentioned, the things that he's kind of dealing with in the first half of this season, you're always there with Cal. But, like, it is interesting some of the things that kind of happen with him. I'm not going to mention, but Cal definitely has a very interesting season, and this season, also leaves off with a major cliffhanger, because that's what Manifest does. It always leaves you these cliffhangers, making you want more. So by the end of episode 9, going into the second part, I'm already like, okay, what's going to happen? I have no clue. I don't foresee a time jump here because it's just the second part, but I just can't wrap my head around what may happen here, because things are definitely getting super interesting in a turn that I just did not see coming. So there's a lot kind of going on in this season. It's so much fun, so much drama, mystery, clues, all that sorts of different things. I think in this season, Ben's story arc is one of the most interesting aspects of it. The whole situation with Eden, which I don't really want to say too much. I mean, obviously we know who Eden was taken by, but in that sake, like, Angelina is very problematic, and the anti-callers or the anti-A2-ators, the registry folks and whatnot, they actually play a very interesting part into this season as well too. A lot different from what I've seen before. I'll say, like, they're not so extreme, and them kind of taking a different approach definitely makes things a lot more unpredictable, because we sort of knew the sort of brute force tactics before, but now things are a lot different, and you're just really not going to know what's going to happen. So, like, it's completely this season is mind-bending and very, very unpredictable, and it's emotional. It's certainly emotional, and it's going to be interesting to see where everything goes. And everybody's on everybody's on the clock, because the death date still exists, and everyone's trying to, the source of the callings and other things that have to deal with the callings. There's some other really interesting revelations about the callings and how they could be handled. So be ready for a lot of science and other theories in this as well too. So, but hey, Manifest returns for season 4, part 1, November 4th. All 10 episodes, definitely jump in the comments and let me know your thoughts about it. And as always, stay tuned for more reviews very soon.